expected than Lamar Jackson. Let's go to Baltimore next, where head coach John Harbaugh had high praise for his two-time MVP. Coach, talk to me.
I've said it many times, I think he's the best. He's the best in football. So he works hard at it. It means a lot to him. He's been studying it. He's been training. You can tell kind of shape he's in right now. He's ready. He's ready to get going.
So you mentioned it earlier. These are teams, Josh Allen and Lamar Jackson in particular. I put the two of them together. Jeff, anything short of finally climbing Mount Mahomes, if you will, feels like a failure. The question is one of these guys going to do what Charles Barkley was never able to do, what Patrick Ewing was never able to do, what Karl Malone was never able to do? That is beat Jordan in his prime. Can one of those, which of those, right now, if I'm asking you to pick one of those two, it's Josh Allen or it's Lamar Jackson, which one of them finally gets past Kansas City this year?
Lamar. Part of it is just culture and history. I mean, you look there, when you were in and around the Ravens, the franchise, the building, all of that, I don't speak that much time here, but enough over the years. They've won a couple. They've done it. They've climbed the mountain. It was against Mahomes? No. But they've done that, and Buffalo's still looking to do it. And I think that matters with those players and staff throughout that building. So it's not just the two quarterbacks, as great as they are. Either one, Greeny, either one of these guys could win it. We're talking about each one being a game away, but I'd pin my hopes on Lamar.
What do you think you would?
I'm going to go with Josh Allen. I think the one thing that you can say about Josh Allen and the Buffalo Bills, like Josh Allen, the reason that the Buffalo Bills lose is not because of Josh Allen.
Yeah.
Josh Allen, like his stats are historical, and then all of a sudden other things happen why they lost instead of Josh Allen. I'm still waiting on Lamar Jackson to put together a vintage Lamar Jackson type of game in the postseason.
Was either team appreciably better going into camp to you?
Here's why the Bills have a better. The Bills are favored in all 17 of their games this season, the only such team in the NFL. Their schedule is a lot easier. Go, Jeff, final word.
That's exactly my point. I would actually push back on Damian and say that that's part of the reason, the fact that the Ravens have the bigger, better team around Lamar, bringing back far more starters. But I look toward that schedule. To your point, they're favored, and part of that is to do with the fact that they have high expectations, but part perhaps in some slight way means that they have a little bit of an easier schedule.
They're favored in every game, including when they play Kansas. From the Bears a little bit earlier, yesterday the Commanders' offensive coordinator, Cliff Kingsbury, was talking about his sensational sophomore quarterback, Jayden Daniels. Cliff, talk to me.
You just watch him move around. He's not thinking as much. He's playing fast and letting his natural gifts kind of take over, and that's what we want to see. So I expect him to take a big jump.
Okay, so this to me is an interesting question. Jayden Daniels had a season the likes of which we have never seen before. He took his team all the way to the NFC Championship game. What would constitute a successful second season after that debut act, particularly with all the pieces they've added? Damian Woody.
Jayden Daniels could have a better season, but the Washington Commanders might take a step back. I thought the Washington Commanders overachieved last year. Jayden Daniels was spectacular, no question about it. But if you look at the whole of the Washington Commanders, like really they shouldn't have been on the field with the Philadelphia Eagles last year. They actually might take a little bit of a step backwards. I think their defense is underwhelming, and some of these other NFC teams are on the come up. The Rams and some of these other teams. So Jayden Daniels could be better, but they might take a little bit of a step back.
Jeff, what do you think?
Yeah, I think that's the proper level of grace, as we should put it. When it comes to teams like the Ravens and the Bills, anything other than a Super Bowl, quite frankly, at this point, feels like a failure for those teams. This is a team that knocked on the door and certainly should continue to achieve. I think a playoff win would certainly mark a successful season. Anything beyond that is really just continuing to knock on that door to eventually become what they want to be, which is champions.
Michael, the great himbo, did a little dive here. Can I show you D11, please? Here are some reasons that we might expect some regression from the Commanders that have nothing to do with Jayden Daniels. They play on 5 short weeks, which is as many as any team in the NFL. They play 4 teams coming off a bye. That's the most of any team in the NFL. They had 6 comeback wins after trailing in the fourth quarter last season. That tends to revert to the mean. They had comparatively excellent injury luck. They were the 5th healthiest team by adjusted games lost last year. That's obviously not something you can count on. So one might look at that and say a lot of things went right for the Commanders last year to be where they were.
Yeah, I can think of a Hail Mary play. Which changed it, and it changes seasons. People forget about momentum. Any of those factors that everyone came up with, you get 2 of those going the wrong way, just a tick, and you now have 9 wins and 9 and 8, and maybe not making the playoffs. Let me just say this. There are no out-of-control expectations of the Commanders of Washington.
No, you're there.
They don't live there. Yeah. They're not. People are still, because of what happened the previous 20 years, people are pretty happy with the product. But you look at Jayden himself, who just was remarkable. So was C.J. Stroud as a rookie, and then he wasn't. I mean, an entire league now has the chance to adjust to him. As D. Wood knows, there are people sitting in dark rooms right now with video who have the Commanders on their schedule, who are figuring out ways to deal with Jayden Daniels that they did not last year. So that's an additional factor that comes into play. Like Jeff, I think one playoff win and then would be still pretty much a successful season this time.
Go ahead, Jeff.
Going back to what Cliff said, I think that his on-field progression is great, but I think truly what should give that whole community optimism and hope is the way that Jayden Daniels handles the locker room and his leadership ability. That will not regress. That will continue to ascend. He has that factor, and to me, that's as important as anything else when it comes to the franchise quarterback.
So he had a lot to say yesterday. Jeff is up with us, D. Wood, but Michael, no one is more intimately connected in Chicago than you are. You know some of the principals involved here. What is your big picture take right now as they go forward and try to put that part of it behind them?
I'm glad Caleb came out and did this. I wish it had been for selfish reasons. Somebody who's been a fan of this franchise for 60 years. I wish it happened a little earlier, but I understand he's got a lot of things on his plate, including getting used to new teammates and a new coach and trying to get better this year. Look, Caleb Williams went to my son goes to Caleb Williams High School, Gonzaga High School in Washington, D.C. I know Caleb and I know his dad, and I am completely biased in their favor, so let me declare that. This was not a story by the time we got to the draft. It was earlier, but there's so much time between the end of the college football season and the draft, just 6 months. Carl Williams, Caleb's dad, did exactly what a father's supposed to do. He advocated for his son with a franchise he knows nothing about, they know nothing about, they have no relationship with those people. And then he did his due diligence, and Caleb, I think, used that phrase at some point. That's exactly what a father should do. So what I would do if it was my son, and by the way, Caleb, once they met and had multiple meetings with the Bears, particularly Kevin Warren, the president, that was done. By the time we got to the draft and he became a Chicago Bear, all of that examination was done. So now we move on. Was there drama? There was never any drama. I don't know how many people knew about it in January, February, March, before we got to the draft. And then once we got to the draft, they'd had all these meetings. It seemed to be a kumbaya situation. Caleb understands, you know this, you lived there, you